our news for now. Thanks so much for joining us.
We'll see you back here at 11 for CBS 4 News tonight. Now it's time to switch over to the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather. Good night.
Good night.
Tonight, new photographic evidence of Iraqi prisoner abuse. President Bush finally apologizes, but will he fire Defense Secretary Rumsfeld? Who are these smiling soldiers? We'll tell you what may be behind the behavior that shocked the nation. Osama bin Laden offers gold for killing American leaders. CBS's inside story of an Al-Qaeda member's life shows you why that could be a real offer. And suspending troublemakers. Schools are doing it more often, but suspensions may create more problems than they solve.
This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. President Bush tried again today to deflect Arab anger over the abuse of Iraqi prisoners by some American soldiers, even as evidence of it mounted. The new evidence includes more photographs of Iraqis subjected to humiliating mistreatment by U.S. troops at a Baghdad prison. At the White House today, the president used a visit by an Arab ally, Jordan's young King Abdullah, to do what many had been urging. The president apologized.
I told him I was sorry for the humiliation suffered by the Iraqi prisoners and the humiliation suffered by their families.
President Bush rejected growing calls for Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld to resign or be fired. CBS's David Martin at the Pentagon reports Rumsfeld's job is on the line.
Just as the shock of the original photos was beginning to wear off, the Washington Post published new images of humiliation and degradation, one of which seemed to verge on outright torture. It was the work of low-ranking soldiers, but it sparked calls for high-level resignations, including the Secretary of Defense. Today, he canceled a speech to prepare for what promised to be explosive public hearings tomorrow before both the Senate and House Armed Services Committees.
Perhaps the gravest question is whether Rumsfeld and other senior officials heeded warnings from the International Red Cross about the conditions under which prisoners were being held.
The Red Cross says it visited Abu Ghraib last year, heard prisoners' complaints, and reported them both to military commanders and to Paul Bremer, the senior American in Iraq.
They knew what we had seen, and they could take action upon the recommendations that we had made.
Another question. Did policies established for the treatment of prisoners encourage abuse? When the first captives started arriving at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, the administration ruled they would not be afforded the rights of prisoners of war.
They're enemy combatants and terrorists who were being detained for acts of war against our country. And that is why different rules have to apply.
A prisoner of war is required only to give his name, rank, and serial number. Enemy combatants can be interrogated for any useful information they might have. The Pentagon insists the prisoners at Guantanamo Bay are treated humanely, but acknowledges 2 guards have been rebuked for mistreating inmates. Some of the prisoners at Abu Ghraib are classified as security detainees, which also permits interrogation. But the Red Cross says many are being deprived of their legal rights.
There are people in detention currently that haven't seen a lawyer since 9 months, which is totally and utterly illegal.
An aide to Rumsfeld says the secretary takes responsibility for what happened. But as for resigning, he will serve so long as the president wants him to. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
There is more to report about President Bush's apology today to abused Iraqi prisoners and their families, and on the political fallout in this election year. CBS News Chief White House correspondent John Roberts has that part of the story.
The apology was meant to help mop up a foreign policy disaster, one the White House fears could taint Arab public opinion for a generation.
It's a stain on our country's honor and our country's reputation. I fully understand that.
The president's appearances yesterday on Arab TV, in which he did not apologize, were a glaring miscalculation that only annoyed the Arab street. By today, even the First Lady was with the program.
Very sorry that Iraqi prisoners were humiliated at the hands of Americans.
In Congress, a resolution condemning the abuse passed by a broad margin, but the bipartisanship ended there.
Why did you allow America to be shamed this way throughout the world.
Some Democrats went further, demanding the Secretary of Defense resign. One even filed articles of impeachment against him. And it is clear Donald Rumsfeld will be on hostile ground at his appearance on Capitol Hill tomorrow.
There's only one thing that I want to hear from him, is the date that he's leaving office.
In a move to put distance between himself and the controversy, President Bush made a point of saying he was annoyed with Rumsfeld for keeping to himself both the photos and a Pentagon report illuminating prisoner abuse.
I tell him I should have known about the pictures and in the report.
Being out of the loop, particularly on an explosive issue like this, was a huge embarrassment for the president, one his Democratic challenger was only too happy to exploit today.
As president, I will not be the last to know what is going on in my command.
But it appears a tongue lashing is as far as the president is willing to go, and that the secretary is safe, at least for now.
If Republicans were calling for his head, Rumsfeld might be in trouble, but they're not. However, Republicans are warning the president someone needs to be held accountable, and soon. Dan?
John Roberts reporting live from the White House. Thanks, John. For now, at least, the only ones clearly being held accountable for the ugly scenes at that Baghdad prison are at the opposite end of the military chain of command, including the low-ranking soldiers actually seen in the photographs. CBS's Thalia Ashuras has their story tonight.
In a town with one traffic light and a half-dozen churches, patriotism and pride,
I'm proud of my daughter,
are spelled with a capital P. And a mother defends a daughter whose wide smiles and victorious gestures in photos from Iraq's Abu Ghraib prison shocked this small town and the world.
She's not herself in them, I can see that. It's like it was staged, like it's put on for some reason.
21-year-old Private First Class Lindy England was following orders, says her family, afraid she would get in trouble if she didn't go along.
She said, they told us to do whatever you have to do. In order to get them to talk, you do it.
You're saying she, as a soldier, just took orders?
Yeah. I mean, she took orders. I mean, she had questioned them to other soldiers with her.
Private England frequently visited another soldier in the military police unit, Specialist Charles Grainer. A one-time Pennsylvania prison guard, there are published reports Grainer had a history of domestic violence. CBS News has been told that England and Grainer, both divorced, were involved in a romantic relationship in Iraq, and that Lindy is pregnant. Some who know her say that England's alleged actions have tarred this military town and the unit she served, and she deserves to be punished.
Something's going to have to happen.
It's got to be tough.
Well, she knew better. And it's sad, you know. I know she wasn't raised to be like that.
Back home in Uniontown, Pennsylvania, Grainer friend Thomas Zavada is more forgiving.
There's a lot of guys that could be put into that position if the occasion arises.
Meantime, England's mother fears her daughter has been made a scapegoat.
She stood up for her country, and she'd still stand up for her country, no matter what. But she feels like she's been let down.
And a small town feels it was let down by some of its own. Thalia Ashuras, CBS News, Fort Ashby, West Virginia.
Osama bin Laden is apparently making new threats. Militant Islamic websites in the Middle East today posted an audio tape message purported to be from him offering rewards of more than $100,000 in gold for killing U.S. and United Nations officials in Iraq. CBS's Jim Acosta reports this is just one more thing to worry about for hard-pressed U.S. troops now fighting on new offensives.
Way to walk on eggshells while waging war, the U.S. may be doing just that outside Najaf. Coalition forces killed 40 fighters loyal to Muqtada al-Sadr, so far sparing the city's sensitive holy sites. U.S. soldiers claim two important victories, driving the rebel cleric's militia out of a regional governor's building and flattening his office in Karbala. There was no peace in Baghdad either, after a massive car bomb exploded at a heavily guarded checkpoint outside coalition headquarters, killing one U.S. soldier and 5 Iraqis. The blast ripped through cars and injured dozens of Iraqis on their way to work. A militant Islamic group claimed responsibility, naming the suicide bomber and praising what it called a harvest of infidels. 2 other bombs were placed around the capital city. A roadside device exploded in a commercial area, injuring 2 Iraqis, while a U.S. robot defused another bomb in western Baghdad. One grim weapon in the insurgents' arsenal resurfaced. An Iraqi-American taken hostage appeared on Arab television, 42-year-old Aban Elias. His brother says he was just rebuilding Iraqi roads.
I'm calling upon all the Islamic organization to free him.
He's a Muslim. His mom's Muslim. He got 3 little kids.
Assaults on U.S. convoys are also on the rise. The coalition believes a seething anger is building in Iraq, setting the stage for more violence. It will be much harder now for the U.S. to